All right, let's talk about one of the most stressful things a freelancer can hear, the take it or leave it offer. It's a classic power play, right? It's designed to shut you down. But what if there was a way to completely flip the script? Well, today we're going to break down exactly how to do that, using a powerful playbook from the legendary negotiation guide, Getting to Yes.
So picture this. You've been talking to a new client, everything's going great, you're excited, you send over your contract, feeling pretty good about it. And then, that email lands in your inbox. The offer is way lower than you expected, and it comes with an ultimatum.
And boom, there it is. Your stomach just drops, right? It feels like all your leverage, all your power just evaporates in an instant. It's a classic hardball tactic, and it's built to make you feel totally cornered, like your only options are to either take a bad deal or walk away with nothing. But what if that's a total illusion?
Okay, so here is our game plan for today. First, we're going to pull back the curtain on the trap they're trying to set for you. Then, we'll talk about how to completely change the game. We'll learn how to reframe their power play, uncover what they really want, use objective facts to get a fair deal, and we'll finish with a mindset shift that will change how you negotiate forever.
So let's start with the trap itself. This tactic is basically trying to force you into one of two boxes. The authors of Getting to Yes call it positional bargaining. They want you to believe you can only play one of two ways. Either you're a soft bargainer who just gives in to keep the client happy, or you have to be a hard bargainer and fight back, which could blow up the whole deal.
And this is a perfect breakdown of those two paths they're trying to push you down. If you go soft, sure, you might keep the client, but you'll end up with a deal that makes you feel, honestly, pretty resentful. But if you go hard, you treat them like the enemy, you might win on the price, but you've probably just torched any chance of a good long-term relationship. For a freelancer, neither of those is a real win.
But here's the absolute key to all of this. You do not have to play their game. You don't have to choose between being a pushover and being a jerk. There is a third, way more powerful way to handle this.
And that third way is something called principled negotiation. So instead of digging your heels in on your position while they dig in on theirs, you shift the entire conversation. You start working on solving a problem together, side by side, based on what's fair and what makes sense.
So what does that actually mean? Well, the goal here isn't to win. It's to get to a smart outcome that works for everybody. This is all about being firm on the issues but flexible with the people. And that completely changes the dynamic from a battle to a collaboration.
Now, this whole method is built on 4 core ideas. Number 1, separate the people from the problem. Number 2, focus on their underlying interests, not just the hardline position they're stating. 3, get creative and brainstorm options that benefit both of you. And 4, and this is the absolute key to beating take it or leave it, insist on using objective, fair standards.
So, how do you actually put this into action? When they throw that hardball at you, your first instinct is to throw one right back, right? But Getting to Yes has this brilliant concept they call negotiation jiu-jitsu. The idea is, instead of meeting their force with your force, you gracefully step aside and redirect their energy towards solving the real problem.
So what does that actually look like? Well, instead of saying, your offer is way too low, you ask a question like, can you help me understand the thinking behind that number? Instead of defending your rate, you invite them to give feedback. What concerns do you have that my proposal doesn't address? And here's a pro tip. Ask a good question and then just stop talking. That silence is a powerful tool. It makes them start talking and justifying their position.
This brings us to probably the most important idea in all of negotiation, the difference between interests and positions. So their position is what they say they want. For example, we can only pay you $5,000, but their interest is the real reason why. Maybe it's, our marketing budget for this quarter is totally locked and we can't go over. See the difference? The position is the what, the interest is the why.
The book tells this great little story that explains this perfectly. The two men were stuck on their positions, open versus closed, but their real interests were fresh air and no draft. As soon as the librarian understood their true interests, the solution was obvious, and everyone was happy. In your negotiation, your job is to be the librarian.
Okay, this is it. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're going to walk through a real-world script, straight from the book, that shows you exactly how to use objective, independent standards when that client hits you with the ultimatum.
So, let's say your client says this to you. Look, $15,000 is all you'll get. Take it or leave it. It feels like you just hit a brick wall, but you haven't.
This is your move.
You don't get angry, you don't argue, you don't reject the offer. You just calmly shift the conversation to fairness. You say something like, 15,000 might be a fair number. I'm just not sure. Can you help me understand how we arrived at that figure? I just want to make sure it lines up with the industry standards for this kind of project.
See what's happening here? You're not saying no. You're simply inviting them into a problem-solving discussion. You're asking for the objective reason behind their number. And that moves the conversation away from a test of wills and toward a search for a fair standard that you can both agree on.
And what are those fair standards? Well, you could bring up the average market rate for the work you do. You could point to an official industry pricing guide. You could even ask, respectfully, what they've paid other freelancers for similar projects. The whole point is to find a neutral yardstick to measure the deal against, not just their opinion or your opinion.
So when you boil this all down, it really comes back to a fundamental shift in your mindset. When you're staring down a take it or leave it offer, your real strength doesn't come from being more stubborn than they are. It comes from being principled.
This is the mantra right here. Never yield to pressure, only to principle. It means you are completely open to being persuaded by logic, by fairness, by objective standards, but you are absolutely not open to being bullied by pressure. That is an unbelievably powerful place to negotiate from.
And remember, when you do this, you are not being difficult. You're not being a pain to work with. You're actually being a better business partner. You're showing them that you are committed to finding a fair outcome that works for both of you. You're turning what they meant to be a fight into a collaboration.
So I want to leave you with this to think about. Whether it's with a new client, a current one, or heck, even in your personal life. What's one conversation you're having where you could stop arguing about positions and start talking about principles? Give it a try. You might be surprised what happens. Thanks for tuning in.